I know that you've all been prepared for this, but I thought I'd just remind you just the same.
Can you handle that, Blondie?
Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
It was pure evil.
I want to buy some radio ad time.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
And I'm your host, Old John Toohey.
We got Karen Mack in the back, and this is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Let's get to it, motherfuckers. Alright, Noel, we're continuing our little trend of catching up on TV series that occurred while we were busy doing other shit.
Yeah,
and,
just after it all blows over and people stop caring a little bit, that's when we strike.
Well, we're closer than we did with our first releases. We had like Spider-Man and shit, like, so.
Yeah, I suppose like 2001 Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You got me there, alright.
Yeah, but like we like kind of letting shows wrap up a little bit too, like, and kind of let people gather some information in terms of like the discussions that you have post show, instead of being very hot on the tail where you're just literally caught up in the whole whirlwind of everything and you're kind of just matching everyone's conclusions. You kind of want to you want to let it simmer a little bit too though as well, like, so. But one of the shows we recently covered was Squid Game, and because that was a fucking complete juggernaut. But another one which was almost held a similar kind of like space in the realm of the zeitgeist for a period of time there was Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass. Not as big as Squid Game in terms of culturally or the effect it's had going forward, but like it definitely held a big place in terms of the meme culture that was going around, and that's kind of the sign of success in a lot of ways lately, like that you're being talked about, is that there's more memes, the more success in a lot of ways.
Oh God, unfortunately, I mean, there is. Yeah, I think somebody said, like, if the world was about to end, this would be the last meme, and it was the planet Earth as Michael Jordan crying and the meteor about to hit. You know, it's true. Like, we are the meme generation. Yeah. But then, again, this was. I don't think this blew up as much as Squid Game, and one of the reasons I think is that it was undeniably, and I'm not saying this as a pop, self-indulgent. Yeah. Mike Flanagan had made some absolute great movies, and he's a treasure.
Yeah, he's a 50-50 director.
Do you think so? Well, I suppose I didn't watch the second season of Haunting in Hill House, whatever it was called. I know
Haunting of Bly Manor.
Yeah, because my fiance watched it and she kind of went, meh.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to go out when she says it, because she's got my exact tastes in horror. Yeah, like that's one of the it's both of our big passion. So I didn't, but I loved Haunting in Hill House. I loved Doctor Sleep. I thought this was self-indulgent, but I thought it was culminated in something pretty fucking awesome. Yeah. And I think he'd earned it, you know, that kind of way. I think he earned his little passion.
He did Trick or Treat as well, which is awesome.
Did he do the Trick or Treat?
Yeah.
I actually liked that. That was the anthology series, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he directed Trick or Treat and then like disappeared, I think, for a couple of years and then came back.
Was that it? Was that his first?
I think that was one of his first. I could be wrong. There's only some
I
sort of way
haven't
of
followed
checking.
his career. He kind of like, I'm not as good as directors as you are. I never am. The people behind the camera, you're always much better at the studio. But Mike Flanagan is somebody who's a name that is kind of unavoidable at this particular moment if you're a horror fan.
And what do you think of his kind of relationship with Netflix at the moment? He seems to be making a lot of content for them there, isn't he? Like, he's done Bly Manors, you mentioned, Hill House, you mentioned, and he did Midnight Mass. He's got another show, I think, coming out soon as well. Like, so he's hot property. I'm just going to IMDb him.
Yeah, you go for it. I was going to say, when I was watching, I watched the first episode of Midnight Mass almost immediately as it came out, and then I kind of went, meh. And
he did Gerald's Game, which is on Netflix too. Sorry.
Yeah, I like Gerald's Game. Actually, I read that book when I was a kid as well. But I watched the first episode and I was just like, that's just a bit too much of a slow burner. I don't know if that's the mood I'm in, but it was the mood that Sheila was in. So she said, "Do you mind if I go ahead with this?" And by the end of it, she was like, "You have to watch it." She goes, "Trust me, you're actually going to be annoyed with the second episode, maybe even the third episode." Yeah. But it does culminate.
Yeah, it's a very captivating show.
It's a very captivating show, and it deals with there's so many intertwining stories. But you could with broad strokes, you could have it being like a crisis of faith. Yeah. You could have it being the intertwining of beliefs. You could have the closed-mindedness that comes with religion and the open-mindedness that can come with religion.
Can I ask you a question? Go
ahead.
A lot of people said it's very like Storm of the Century and Salem's Lot. And I haven't seen either of those in a long time. Have you seen either of them recently?
I don't know if I've seen Storm of the Century. Of course I've seen Salem's Lot.
Yeah, have you seen it recently? Does it share similarities apart from the creature design?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I suppose it's based in a community, and yeah, I could see you drawing comparisons, but I think you'd be stretching a line to do it.
Yeah,
Not a big one.
a lot of people say that it's the two of them combined. I really think I need to go and watch them. I think to do a proper comparison, but
yeah, I do. I mean, obviously,
But
there was a lot of wide shots in this. I remember just feeling very much so like I had a scale of the island.
yeah,
You know, he did do a really good job painting a picture. You kind of almost at some points you seem to know where everyone's house is in relation to everyone else's house.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, I think he did an excellent job, like, just this tiny corner of the world. And here's what's happening. You've got the DUI Riley absolutely
do you think though
shell-shocked.
the similarities that people saw with Storm of the Century and Salem's Lot with this is a case of like sometimes to create something original you often have to use ingredients from two separate stories and kind of combine them.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
the
that kind
further
of,
down the road of time of films we go, the more that we, whether it's overtly and we do tap into it, or it's subconsciously and we are just simply products of what we have seen.
yeah,
Like, you know, I do think Mike Flanagan set out to make something here. Like, this isn't like any other thing I've seen to the point where I'd say it's hardly a carbon copy of anything.
yeah,
But it might. There's probably tips of the cap.
yeah,
to
because
something like Salem's Lot.
some of your experiences and all that jazz, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly
It's
it.
good because the stuff you watch growing up is what inspired you to become a creator, and those things are inherently going to be within your creations because that's what inspired you.
Yeah, if somebody said to me like, "Oh, let's just say hypothetically I made a film and it did really well or well enough," and somebody said, "But I actually thought, you know what it reminded me of?" I wouldn't, as long as they didn't accuse me of straight out plagiarism. But if they said that it reminds me of something who was of one of my heroes,
Yeah.
or one of my favorite films growing up, and I knew that I didn't overtly set out to make that, I would take that as a compliment. I would,
of course.
You know, we are again. It's a culmination, and this was Mike Flanagan. Like, this was big.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I mean, I think he must have sweated over this for quite some time, because it's shot from the perspective of kind of all sides of the story, as opposed to a good guy chasing a bad guy. This was not Die Hard at all, you know.
Yeah.
There was the complexity of the priest versus the self-torture of Riley. Father Hall, I think was the character, and just Erin and everybody thrown in. It was so vast, and I think it covered the vastity of people quite well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think you had everything from the town drunk to, you know, who isn't a particularly complicated
I'm
character.
I'm trying to remember the show, dude.
To a religious zealot, Deborah, I think was her name.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And you know what? You know what I love in a horror show or anything? I love somebody, the Joffrey effect. I love somebody I hate so much. All I want. I was like, I mean, I would have kept watching. I loved the first 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, but I would have kept watching if I
First 7, the only 7, I think you meant to say.
The only 7.
Yeah.
I would have watched that even if I hated it, just to see Joffrey die. And maybe I would have stopped.
Yeah.
Like, in a hypothetical where I hated it, I would be like, I hate the show, I can't wait to stop watching it. But first this prick goes.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I see this prick die. And Beverly was great. That the zealot.
Yeah.
The horrible side of religion. The people who, if you don't think like them, you're going
Is
to
that
burn.
not played out now, though?
It is. I even last.
It's such a heavy
I was talking
trope.
to Sheila about it, because me and you covered The Mist.
Yeah, The Mist.
Not so many movies.
Expiation.
Ago.
Expiation.
And I was just like, because she
Miss
was
Carmody,
talking,
or
you know, she was talking about the
eating animal
typical
crackers
religious
people.
zealot, and they're typically women. Like, you know, the character that
Yeah, women are
religious zealots
psychos,
quite
we've all
often
said
met.
that.
But let's not dance around.
No offense in here,
I don't know,
motherfuckers.
Candlemas did a really good job of subverting the story. I did not know what it was about.
Candlemas at midnight mass.
I did it. Told you we'd do it. There's a 1980s band called Candlemas, and they have a song called Bewitched, and my girlfriend is obsessed with it, and I cannot stay in Candlemas every time I meet to say midnight mass. I told them I was going to do it, and true to form, I did it.
Can you hear me chewing? I'm eating animal crackers.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Can
How
you?
are those animal crackers going down?
I know. I'm just
Salty
like
using
sorry. I'm just going to say sorry to everyone that's listening.
Just pretty unprofessional to do when we're recording drinks from beer.
I told you I'm going for Mark Ruffalo's Zodiac. I have to get
Mark
my mind
Ruffalo's
clear.
Zodiac. But what do you think? Like, let's talk about this in broad strokes, because it became a story of a priest who just wanted another shot, who didn't want to die, and, you know, it became the story of an angel / a fucking deity slash a monster slash a vampire. Do you think at the end, at the culmination, that you look back at that story, do you say, because everyone says it's, not everyone, sorry, it's been suggested that it's Mike Flanagan's greatest work to date. Do you think that is the culmination of the story? Do you think that is praise he deserves? Do you think it's overstated? Do you think it was too convoluted? I did think at times it disappeared up its own asshole, but I thought ultimately it was a really good story.
First of all, in my opinion, Dr. Sleep is the best thing Mike Flanagan's done. Second best is Trick or Treat.
Agreed.
Yeah, second best, Trick or Treat. Second of all, it's very hard not to disappear up your own asshole when you're asking such massive questions about religion.
That's true.
And fundamentalism. And
because even the dialogue, forget the big scenes, a lot of the dialogue was like, what happens when we die? And Erin had lost the baby, and she talks about like that the baby was just sent into the world to sleep. It was it was actually very beautiful dialogue.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan is probably in a case now where he's getting into his 50s or something, and he's probably asking a lot of these questions of himself. Like, the older you get, the more you look at your own mortality and you wonder what it's like. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, and we were only talking just before you start recording how goddamn stupid you were when you were 18 in terms of like, you know, what you'd like, I've got my knee is twisted in backwards, I'll just probably take a Nurofen and pop back out and kick around the ball with the police,
for 4 hours.
4 hours, so.
But yeah, no, like, I just think that when you, in that moment right now, I'd say he's asking a lot of these questions of himself. Where do you go? What's the next place like? What would you do to provide to stay in existence, for lack of better terms? Like, what would you do? Like, would you make a deal with the devil, for lack of a better term, as well? It's like, shit, I said that twice.
It's very poignant.
But, you know
it's very poignant.
Yeah,
because it's a lot of exposition, but if you want to break it down to a sentence, I mean, I don't think that's a bad one.
Yeah, I just think that's the case where he's probably like asking himself these questions right now about what would he do to remain on this earth. And I think a lot of that's bled into this story. You have a lot of big questions asking, and as you said, like, about the accusations of disappearing up its own asshole, but like, when you're looking at something, when you're talking about existence, the afterlife, the things you would do to remain, like, to, why am I finding it so hard to come up with a term, the things you do to stay alive, or for to prevent mortality from like killing you or whatever. I don't know what's going on, but like, I just think when you look at it,
okay, like your sense of self-survival,
yeah, exactly,
the sense of not giving up, or or a second chance. Forget even survival, because it wasn't necessary that some of these people had guns pointed at their heads. Yeah, they just wanted it to be better, or they wanted to stop being afraid, or they wanted there to be something more. Yeah, and so it is just about your place in the universe, even if you want to go like really meta and very big. Yeah, and you're asking those. It's the biggest question you can ask of like any. Like, the thing is, like, we were gifted with great innovation as a species, humanity, but we were also gifted with the great curse of knowing our own mortality, and like, all too well. Yeah, you know, so the case of when you're asking these questions, your own existence in the universe, and what does it mean, and why do I exist, and what would I do to create longevity to my existence? Like, I just think that Midnight Mass, it literally looks at this and goes, asks all those questions and takes it to the next level, and it's like, instead of like the survival instinct of like in a situation like Squid Game, something we talked about, is like, that's the survival instinct overdrive. But when you look at it, the chance of like, would I give into darkness, the internal darkness, just so I can remain alive? And like, you know what I mean? And I just think, like, when you have a situation like that when you have those huge questions, that like, you do kind of have to disappear a little bit up your own asshole, because you have to you have to be very profound in the answers to questions that are very profound in their own nature, you know what I mean? So it makes me feel like I've been unkind by saying that, because the fact of the matter is, I don't know what exactly I'm asking from somebody. If they want to make something about this, it's not exactly something you should keep shallow. Yeah, it's very hard to. What do you think happens to us when we die? And he's like, I don't know, bro. Yeah, Stardust. I wouldn't have wanted that. You know, yeah, Stardust. Yeah. You know, we're made of Stardust. Stardust. And this, the dialogue in this was actually excellent. I think the character development was excellent, just so much that a 30 minutes simply absolutely would not do it. Yeah. And it also kind of touches upon stuff that you can't relate to, and it touches upon stuff you can relate to. So it was so superfluous, and then it was so grounded. Yeah. Like the DUI, you had a guy who just literally was living with his guilt in a very atheist way. He was very much so just here suffering, and then you had the priest. Survivor's guilt. Yeah, and then I thought the juxtaposition between Riley and Priest Hall, where he was able to point to something in the Bible, because there's always fucking something if you want to cherry pick a Bible that justifies. He goes, oh, and my conscience
Hashtag
was clear
Holy Scriptures.
and my conscience was clear, for it was God's will. This is after he killed the town drunk, when he finally had crossed the line, of blood. Where you've actually there's a critical point, as they touch upon, where you actually start to become a vampire, where you get the benefits thereof, and also the sunlight whole thing kicks in, but and the thirst for blood. But he was able to justify it. I love the fact that one person would rather, because this is how I would feel. I think I'd rather live with the guilt than just be able to read some. I don't know. If somebody gave me a pill and then it said it could take away all your guilt and just make you, I would go no, because as much as I hate it, or as much as I feel bad, it's a part of who I am. Yeah, I would be such a cop out.
Yeah, it'd be equilibrium.
It's be equilibrium, and then how do I be better?
Yeah,
how do I be better if I don't carry this with me? Or what about the person I hurt?
Yeah,
killed in this case. Yeah. What about her? Do I not deserve to feel bad about? And that against the priest again, who the cherry picking of the Bible. I think it touches upon stuff that bothers me in my own life. Yeah. And that is when people cherry pick an ancient text that's been translated through over 100 languages, and 100 different dialects of those said languages, and then says, "Oh, what I've done is okay because it's here." Well, it's like, read the next line.
Which is often, it's often the case of religious fundamentalists, that they cherry pick from scripture and texts, and they kind of distort it to their own needs. And that is a case that nearly all fundamentalism, because when you break something down that's so vast, like a religious faith, to its most fundamental beliefs, that's literally fundamentalism in its fucking definition. You know what I mean?
Of course. People cherry pick it to fit their politics.
Yeah.
You know what
pick their fucking mood on the day.
Their actual politics or their mood on the day. Yeah. And this film did an excellent. And again, they had a Joffrey character. Yes. Yeah. You said it's played out. I'm not going to sit here and argue that's not played out. Yeah. Did I care?
No, not the Joffrey character that's played out. The religious fundamentalist that's like, oh, the end is nigh, blah blah blah. You know,
yes, the person who buys it wholesale.
Yeah, and just wholesale. It's just done. It's not a trope that I'm thinking that should be done away with. I'm just saying it's done. So maybe pick a new one or invent a new one. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if you were to say there's. I'm just going to pretend here that there's 20 personality types.
Yeah.
And you were faced with something like an actual vampire or a demon or whatever we're going to say the angel was. I don't know. I don't want to get into it. It was a vampire, basically. It was allergic to sunlight, drank blood. It was a fucking vampire. But there would be just that one person of the 20 types who is so craven to a reason, to something that makes them special, to something that maybe they could buy into more than anyone, to some echelon that they could climb quicker than somebody else if they just have faith, if they just believe. That would be one of the 20 personality types, if there is just 20. Yeah. There would be, and it wouldn't necessarily be a woman like it tends to be. Usually it's the man in charge, and there's the woman who will go to all lengths to further the belief.
That's the first motherfucker you kill, though, isn't it?
That's the first motherfucker he's good on. Because that's the one that starts throwing the kids through the window.
Yeah, exactly. They're sacrificing motherfuckers, you know what I mean?
Sacrificing motherfuckers, yeah. I'd be just I'd be early on, before shit's really hit the fan, I'm just I'm going to preempt a pickaxe into the back of this bitch's head. She just has
What do you think of, to get to kind of veer away from the big questions of fucking religion and fundamentalism, creation, and all these big things? We're a fucking horror show. We're not a philosophy show. So
or are we?
Yeah. Good. I like that. Good. But what did you think of the creature design?
Oh yeah, no, I like the. I just kind of like the simplicity of it. I think sometimes, I'm going to keep it simple when I give the answer to you. Have you seen the amount of times they've reinvented the Scream mask for meant for TV and stuff like that? And they always just seem to look worse. Yeah. I always just think what's classic is a towering figure. Yeah. Of a towering muscular physique, something just very human but not quite, very daunting. Yeah. Very strong. Wings that just come out like a bat. I know that's so on the nose, but I just thought it looked cool. Yeah. You know what? It just simply I looked at it and went, that'll do. That's just really fucking cool.
Yeah.
I was just into it. I didn't want too much or too little, and I think that walked the line for me. And again, I'm being overly simplistic in my answer, but honestly, that's just kind of where I am with this stuff.
Yeah.
What about you?
Do you think it was the kind of a great kind of like idea of how angels, the myth of angels, existed?
Yeah, exactly. But there was even like the first time in Jerusalem. I think it was when the priest comes across him in Jerusalem,
Father
in the
Hall,
cave. Father Hall, yeah. I think he comes in, and there's actually, I think it's just the way the light is hitting the cave, but there's an actual halo.
Yeah,
like his face. Obviously,
or is that what he's
standing
seeing?
in? Yeah, he's standing in where the light comes in, so his face is obviously taking light, and then there's a halo of light around him, and obviously they leaned into it, but he's not completely wrong. You put feathers on those wings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not that far from what we know or believe angels to look like. They're huge. Angels look like very beautiful, tall, strong characters with wings.
Yeah,
humanoid character. That's what we grew up in school being told in like Catholic Ireland that angels look like, and this was not
priests were
that stripped from that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not exactly going to come to. Not here to defend the Catholic Church. Believe that. Yeah. But that's what we were told they look like, and he wasn't that far. And when people just, well, first off, when people are shown things that are impossible.
Yeah.
Because it's easy enough to convince people anyway.
Yeah.
Jonestown. It's easy to convince people anyway. But this one, when somebody was actually able to bring the goods, the impossible.
Yeah.
Then, sure, that's an angel, whatever. All I know is I can walk again. All I know is my dementia is gone. All I know is that I've got younger. All I know is I don't need glasses anymore. All of that. That infected that town.
Yeah, because he was all about show, don't tell.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He was 100% about show, don't tell.
Yeah.
And, he was given the communion wine and stuff like that. But he was, again, he was a despicable yet somehow broken character, and there was a little bit of
a misguided messiah.
Yeah, oh wow, well said, man. A misguided messiah
that'd be a great name for a book, actually.
It is, yeah.
Put that, Carl. Bam.
How'd you touch that shit?
But I think like.
But again, he wanted another chance with his wife and his daughter. You know what I mean? Like that's there's a purity. Yeah. There is a purity to that. There was Beverly Kane, I think, but she was just the zealot. She was just somebody you were allowed to hate for hate's sake, and she died trying to dig a hole into the sand. Yeah, But I don't know. It asked me questions. Go ahead.
Do you think that's a clear thing? Like parents of that era of burying their heads in the sand. With in terms with the Catholic Church or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Just thinking about it now, because this show is pure blurry. But one thing I loved about it was the juxtaposition between two of the main characters was Father Hall and Riley. Riley
was flawed, but he owned his shit.
Yeah, but I want to check that dude's name because he was in Friday Night Lights.
He's also in Good Girls.
His name is Zach Gilford.
Yes.
But I love the way that Father Hall was so set in his belief system, and like Riley, as you said, was an atheist because he had the survivor's guilt, and he was all wondering about like his place in the universe and why he still exists and the girl that he killed doesn't. And you had Father Hall that was so locked in his beliefs, no matter what he became very Machiavellian. No matter the means, the end justified thereafter. You know what I mean? So
he was a prick.
Yeah. So no, I just think it's a case of like, when you look at the two of them, like they run side by side in perfect juxtaposition to one another. And when Father Hall, no matter what, it boils down to he was doing whatever he could to stay alive, and he made that deal with the devil. And when he forced that on Riley, and Riley went and turned around and actually immediately just like walked straight outside, got on the rowboat, and sailed straight out into the middle of the ocean, giving himself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I just love that where he explains everything to her, and he just pretty much like. I just think like Riley was the perfect example of I don't. It's kind of like I don't want to die. I just want to figure out what my existence is, but like I'm not going to exist at any cost. Whereas Father Hall was kind of like I was
going to exist at any cost.
Exactly. Like, and I just
spread the stuff, the evil.
Yeah, because
and dress it up.
Spread the evil, make it seem like it's good, then your evil becomes good. you know, and like it's kind of like what a lot of people do in terms of propaganda, and you know, fascism or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. Like,
there's also a thing where like Riley, I know, like this is filmed, so this wasn't real, but the real question was, he went out and died because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And because now everybody lives online, or if you're going to do something like, you know, give $50 to a homeless guy today, and here was his reaction. Don't get me wrong. Ultimately, I actually support all that, because God knows that whatever that was,
to give them the money,
an awful lot of good. Yes, in very real terms. Yeah. Somebody was helped, but everybody needs, like, what's the point in doing anything, being a good person, if people don't know you're a good person?
Yeah.
But that dude, all he knew was that, no, that price, too high.
Yeah. And one thing,
too high. And I'm not going to hurt Erin, because Erin's never going to cross that threshold. And what am I going to do? Kill her? No.
Do you think
if that's all I have now, then no.
Do you think it was a case of, though, as well, it was him like, I'm going to tell you the story, but the only way she's ever going to truly believe me is if I fucking show her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I love you, and this is how much I love you. Like, I love you enough to not be with you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, and there's not enough of that. You know, there is not enough of that. So I mean, that was it. And again, you used the word, I'm not sure which one of us used before, but we certainly say it here in MDK, juxtaposition. We love it. It's a $64,000 word. We love that.
Gets you out of a lot of situations.
Gets you out of a lot of positions as well. It does, but juxtaposed against the fact that we know what we're talking about. But
fuck it, mind blown.
Mind blown. Inception. The word juxtaposition.
Did you just invert me, dude?
There is no Carl. But it did really tell a broad array of stories, and I know there's lesser stories in it, like the priest's wife and his daughter, who was the one who did all the tests and all the blood and stuff. And him, but it really was just a story of redemption, and what redemption really looks like versus what you think redemption is. And what the priest did, he thought was redemption, but look what he wrought, and it was just wholesale butchery. And even he realised it before the very end. He realised it, but it was too late. Like, I mean, you can't be on the side. I was about to say you can't be on the side of the angels, because that's an expression, but like, I suppose it kind of works in a very literal sense here. You can't be on the side of the angels, because
it comes a case. It's kind of like, if you let a predator in, eventually it's just going to start seeing everything as food. You know what I mean, though? Like, because it's literally going to, what happens is a predator's going to come in, it's going to become dominant, it's going to grow exponentially, and then it's just going to take over and look at everything as a food source. So you can only control it as long as you control the numbers. But as soon as the spread of the virus, like in the strain or something, as soon as the virus spreads, when that naught number, when it becomes 2, becomes 4, when that odd number keeps going higher and higher and higher, and you lose control of the virus, then like that's what happens when it just turns on you. Like, you know, it's like that's what happens in Midnight Mass. The more he gave it to people, the more people got out of hand, the more people became vampires, and then it just literally just cannibalized itself. You know what I mean? Like, and like it's kind of like any kind of virus. It just burns itself out eventually, and that's kind of what happened in Midnight Mass. That it literally, he cannibalized everyone to the case of like self-destruction. You know what I mean? It's like,
but they wrought their own destruction by taking down every sort of form of shelter, and then there was only the rec centre and the church. And then Beverly, the bitch, was the one. Carol fucking Baskins of fucking Midnight Mass.
Hey, cool cats and kittens.
Hey, cool vamps and non-vamps. Yeah, but she's fucking.
Hey, cool Catholics and Christians.
Yeah, there you go. But
nailed it.
I did, like, I mean, you know, they took down every form of shelter, and then the sun came. Everything was so cool, because I love the fact that Erin got taken down, but she cut the wings off the so-called angel. I love the fact that there was only 2 centres left, but because the priest and the sheriff, Hassan's son, who had turned, but had enough humanity left in him as a person, as a mental entity, as opposed to his
their
physical
relationship
needs.
Was one of the most fascinating. I found out the side stories.
But they both die. One died. The sheriff succumbs to his wounds, and the kid dies in the sun. And the last thing they do is say a prayer in the faith that they actually did, that Islam. They were raised in. And yeah, exactly. And they were kind of brought into this. the kid, I think, wanted to belong, and the father didn't want to deny his kid that.
Yeah.
There was beautifully complex relationships in this. There really, really, really was, and it was definitely for somebody to like be patient and immerse themselves in.
Yeah.
And if you did, I thought the payoff to this was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like fantastic. It had all of the feels, and it gave me a little bit of closure, and it had a little bit of vengeance, and it had some painful deaths for people who fucking just deserved it, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's Mike Flanagan's best work. It's certainly not the work I enjoyed most. I loved Haunted and Hill House. I loved Trick or Treat. Didn't even know that was him.
Yeah.
And I love Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, Doctor Sleep is fucking amazing, I think.
Doctor Sleep is underrated.
Yeah.
It's underrated.
And
you told me that.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor is completely solid.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor is such a solid actor.
Yeah.
But you told me that, and I'm glad I took your word for it. And I learned about myself. I already knew, but like, I suppose I really had to recognise I'm a little bit too pushed by public opinion. You know, it came out and people were like, meh. And then I was a little bit meh, and you wanted to cover it. And then it turned out to be an absolutely fantastic film.
And you got to see the director's cut, which I have not seen. It's on Amazon now, though, so we'll be scoping out soon.
Definitely scope it out.
Like
I have no frame of reference. I don't even know what the extra half hour is.
Yeah.
I mean, I just ended up watching this really long movie for our podcast. And you were like, so what's the director's cut like? And I was like, I guess good.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it is.
You were like, dude, my version was 3 hours. I'm like, shit, what? So I'll definitely have to scope that out. But like, I'm like you. Mike Flanagan, I think his best work was probably Doctor Sleep. Trick or Treat second, because it was so unique in its own sense. Even though anthologies in their own on its own merits or whatever is not a unique thing, like horror anthologies from Creep.
Oh no, horror anthology, we love them. We've had them since probably 70s. I've watched a lot since the 80s.
But the stories that he intertwined in his anthology was very clever, and the way he wrapped them all up and tied them all together was very, very well done. And that's what I love about Trick or Treat, and it was a very unexpected movie at times. With Haunting of Hill House, I thought was a nice classic haunting tale. I seen the twist coming like 4 or 5 episodes from the end. I did too. I did. That one projected itself to me a little bit. Yeah, with Doctor Sleep, I just thought it was
loved it. But
of course. Yeah, with Doctor Sleep, when you're trying to follow up The Shining, which is something that me and you hold in very high regard. And when I watched that,
massively.
I watched that and I had no expectations, because Shining is such a stellar movie that you have to keep no expectations when you're coming into a sequel. But the movie itself was leaning off source material that existed, that was written in and around the same time it was released. So as we talked about before, it's not like it was waiting 30 years for a sequel that was already existing. And because of that, it paid homage to the original brilliantly, but it also had this modernistic, unique fucking feel to it that made it stand on its own 2 feet. And that's what I loved about Doctor Sleep, whereas it paid the right amount of kudos to the source material, both the book and the movie, Stanley Kubrick Shining. But at the same time, it stood on its own 2 feet as its own story. And that's why I loved Doctor Sleep so much, because it's such a hard thing to do when you have such an iconic movie that you're following up, you know. But
and fanboys, man, you know, like, please, why haven't we had a follow up? It's been 40 years, 30 years. We deserve a follow up. We deserve a follow up. I hated the follow up. It's almost like it's par for the course. And when I watched that movie and just really judge it on its own merits, it was a fucking fantastic movie.
With the book itself, Doctor Sleep, I think came out in 2013 or 2014. So you know,
it was the that's true.
Yeah.
But like, Mike Flanagan was actually able to sit on a seat beside Stephen King and talk about it. And Stephen King fucking loathed the original fucking Shining.
Yeah.
So
I just think, like, in terms of his works, his full body of work, I think it's like middling. It's kind of like Bly Manor. It's kind of middling because it's muddled at times. Like, it's asking so many big questions, very hard to answer them all. But if you ask those questions, you have to try your best to answer them. And he tried his best, and he kind of failed a little bit. And he kind of got lost in his end game at the end, because he's tried to wrap it up. He tried to tell some sort of great morality tale. I just think the story itself was very captivating. The way he told it was very well done. The script was beautiful. The climax itself, I thought, was a bit rushed and a bit undercooked. We burned all our shelter. We forgot we're vampires. Bit stupid. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh no, we burnt everything. Like, you know.
and now I'm just realizing that there isn't like a tree or
exactly. Like, you know,
wall.
A
like,
car.
is there walls in this town?
What
just
about,
walls. You can't burn walls.
I know, a car. Like you could
Car.
just get in a car and bunker down, get in a sleeping bag or something.
Yeah, underneath the burnt house.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Foundations,
You
basement.
are literally like there's one thing in all of creation now that can kill you.
Yeah.
It's the sun. So, like, fucking warm wood is probably not going
So
to
pretty
do it.
much my summation of Midnight Mass is for something that's highly intelligent in the questions that I'd asked, it came to a very stupid conclusion.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, no, I actually really liked the ending, but it's not like I can't poke holes in it. But I found it satisfying, so I'm not going to poke holes in it. So I do think you need to understand the two things between the difference. Was one, you forgive, you watch stuff sometimes and you just simply forgive it.
Yeah.
You just kind of go like, no, I don't know why he's alive again. I don't, but I like Jason Voorhees. Shut up, and that's it. That's all I got for you. So I do think I could poke holes in it, but I just found the last 2 episodes, maybe 3, I think, to be just fascinating. I was really into it at that stage.
My favourite episodes were when Father Hall was talking about his discovery of the vampire / angel. And the whole backstory with that I thought was the most fascinating thing about the whole thing, because that was a vampire story that I had not seen before. And
yeah, it is a vampire story you haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And you can shit on this movie, and series, and you know, and I won't. Again, you know me, and I know you, that there's some things that we're just simply going to come to the defense of. I will fight you if you come for such a film or such a film, but this is one of them. But at the same time, don't accuse him of not trying to branch out
to
and
tell a
create
new
something
story.
a bit new, to tell a new story.
Yeah,
and it did a really good story about people. Like again, like we talked about Squid Game a few days ago, and I thought it was again what
could
would
release
you do
on
in
the
that
same
scenario?
day. We never know.
Yeah. Magic, the magic of editing.
Magic.
But at the same time, it did really, like, I mean, what would you do? Like, who, like, if it did ask you the question of me, although I didn't find it to be as straightforward as Squid Game, to compare to that we were able to put ourselves in sectional situations, and this was more of an overview of life and what you would do. And if I was in that scenario, if I was in that church and I seen that girl get out of her wheelchair and walk up the steps, which side do I fall on? And as somebody who suffers with like panic disorder and anxiety or something, if somebody gave me something and said, and just as real talk, if somebody just said, look, I can make you not afraid. I mean, really, like, joke, all shit aside, I can make you not afraid.
There's no fixing what you got, Noel.
No fixing what I got. But I'm not sure how far down that rabbit hole I would go, and I don't want to find out.
I'll tell you what,
don't.
100%, if I could be a vampire without being like a Strigoi from The Strain, or to be one of them fucking bat things, if I one of these sexy romantic vampires and feed on people, I'm going to get vampired up like a motherfucker.
For those listeners who've never actually seen this, Vinny does have the most delicious eyes. They are
creepy.
literally that. They are the eyes of a husky. They are just gorgeous.
That's creepy.
So he does fit he does kind of, like, he would make a good vampire. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
If there's any vampires out there,
And my general disdain for humanity.
general disdain for you, like, how quickly he wouldn't be like the tortured Brad Pitt in Interview with a
I'd be
Vampire.
Lestat.
He'd go Lestat like day one.
Me and Lestat would have
You
been
know.
amazing buddies.
No, Vinny would have been like, if Vinny was in Interview with the Vampire, we would have been on day one, and he would have been like, Lestat would have been, calm down.
Yeah. Lestat, I'd be like, Lestat, I'm having my fun here.
But you have to open up with an orphanage, and you'll be like, look, I don't tell you how the vampire, don't tell me how the vampire.
I'd be like eating them by the dozen. I'm hungry.
You're saying to little Timmy, sorry, little Timmy, can I have some more?
Please, sir, can I have some more? I'm going to eat you.
Yeah.
But I think like that, like with Midnight Mass, I think it asked a lot of really big questions. It's a cool story, cool monster design. But I didn't like the climax, and I thought it was a bit rushed at the end. But Noel, what's your last thoughts? Because they're mine.
My last thoughts is that I found the ending quite satisfying on a human level. That there was redemption, that there was darkness, that there was depravity, that there was fucking, I don't know, there was so much going on that I did like the sensory overload compared to the absolute opposite that I found the first 3 episodes to be. So I felt it culminated well. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and I would recommend to anyone to watch it. But it wasn't earth shattering or anything for me. But I thought the dialogue was great. You know what I mean? It's definitely. Vinny called him a 50-50 guy earlier, and I think you could almost call this the same. Like inside of a scope of itself. A 50-50. There's things you could take away and things you could pick on and things you shouldn't. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an excellent series overall, but I think you have to have a lot of patience with it, and I'll just leave it at that.
Cool. Alright, cool. So we get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here. So I can listen to Candlemas Bewitched. You have been bewitched. Yeah, just listen to the song. It's an absolutely incredible song, okay? I don't even apologise for it anymore. Sheila was like, first time she threw it on, I was like, this is cheesy as fuck. And then I'm just walking to work and I was just going, you have been bewitched.
Dude, we gotta go. We're running over.
Alright, dude. Party's over, guys.
Alright, folks, that was the Vision.
Alright, thanks for staying with us, folks.
I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Karen Mack in the back, and that was Midnight Mass. See you next time, motherfuckers. You're supposed to
hitting stop.
You're supposed to say peace, motherfucker. Jesus.
Peace. Carol, cut that back. So I said it like 5 seconds earlier.
Don't do it.
Actually, leave it there. The awkwardness. Leave all of that awkwardness in, including up to this part.
We gotta go. See you next time. Bye.